just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I should have done this years ago.
Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья. Wait a bit, please. Я рада вас приветствовать на нашем очередном vertical тренинг. Он в этот раз у нас такой довольно-таки уникальный, потому что у нас очень интересные гости из Кремниевой долины. Это, как вы, наверное, уже знаете, Тристан Поллок и Дэниел Поллок. И хочу вам немножечко говорить про сегодняшний формат. Значит, сначала у нас будет просто такая встреча, где наши гости расскажут про свой опыт работы, поделятся какими-то своими фишечками, потом будет небольшой перерыв, и после этого будет питчинг проектов, на котором вы сможете свои стартапы представить нашим гостям. Итак, please welcome Daniel Pollock and Tristan Pollock.
What's going on, Minsk?
Quite the hype man.
Yeah, well, you know, we're really excited to be here. I'm Tristan, and I've spent some time on both sides of the table. One as an investor with 500 startups, and also founding a couple companies that I've sold for modest exits. And one was bootstrapped, and one was venture-backed. So I kind of see a lot of different aspects of early-stage startups. So hopefully we can help you with some of those today. And I'm very excited to hear some pitches after we're done.
Yeah, and I am Danielle. I see a few familiar faces that were just here for our last presentation. So apologies for having to hear our story twice, but we'll try to keep it interesting. So Tristan and I grew up in Minnesota in the United States, which is kind of a smaller state, not a ton going on, but Tristan likes to share.
But 10,000, we also have 10,000 lakes. I heard Belarus has 10,000 lakes, and Minnesota has 10,000 lakes. So that's our common bond, is the water. Also past glacier country, so we all know what winter feels like.
Yeah, so we grew up in Minnesota. As soon as we each finished university, we both got jobs at kind of on the corporate side of life. So in Minnesota, it's known for like the Mall of America, which is the biggest mall in the U.S. It's known for, that's where Prince is from. And then it also has like a ton of headquarters of different companies like Target, Best Buy, which is where Tristan ended up at bestbuy.com. General Mills, which is a big cereal maker, and then United Health Group, which is where I ended up, a branch of that called United Healthcare. So right out of college, I was doing internal communications. My background is in public relations and event planning. And so I was doing internal comms at United Healthcare. It was a company about 80,000 people. So as you can imagine, it's impossible to know everyone by name. And it's pretty impossible to feel like you're really making a difference. Like it's, you know, kind of this normal 9-to-5 job. And in the Midwest, where we grew up, it's kind of expected that you find a good job that you pretty much work at until you retire. And we knew that wasn't really the life for us. We were both kind of doing some extra things on the side of that. And Tristan will get more into kind of what he was working on, but it's his startup that got us to San Francisco. We didn't really know where we wanted to move, but we got a call one day. This startup that he had been working on got accepted into an accelerator, and they were giving us 3 days notice to move from Minnesota to San Francisco. And we were like, well, I guess our decision has been made for us. So we packed up everything, pretty much rushed out there. And he started this 12-week program. And so he left his full-time job, started as a founder with no salary, as most founders do. And I, luckily, at the time, got to keep my job and would telecommute from San Francisco, so I would work from home. And so that was a relief at the time, because San Francisco, the rent is about 4 times what it is in where we were living in Minnesota. And suddenly we were a one-income family rather than a two-income. So it was scary. But as soon as we moved out there, we kind of dove into like the technology community. You kind of have to, living there. We sold our car because it's very expensive to have a car in San Francisco. There's also no place to park it. And we were like, we'll just figure it out. San Francisco's pretty small. So we'd take public transportation, but then we would also see these cars on the road with what was called a car stash. So essentially it's like a mustache about this big that hooks onto the outside front of your car. It's fuzzy and it's hot pink. And we were like, what is this car stash thing? Like, a lot of people think, it's pink, it's for breast cancer awareness, or maybe it's like a sports gimmick or just something people are buying. But no, it was actually a company called Lyft. It was kind of their first marketing ploy. And so Lyft is the first peer-to-peer ride-sharing service in the US. They were before Uber. Uber was just black car service when Lyft launched. So peer-to-peer meaning a driver can drive their own personal vehicle. They don't have to pay for a medallion like taxi drivers do. And Uber was just black car, so it was kind of a limo service, more for people taking a car to like business meetings and stuff like that. And so Lyft had launched, and we were carless, and we were trying to get around the city, and we were taking these Lyft rides everywhere, and the drivers were amazing. They were so quirky. Most of them were from San Francisco. They were giving us all the best recommendations about where to eat and where to listen to music. And we became friends with some of them. And I'm sitting here, a few months into San Francisco, just thinking, like, everyone I meet is so passionate about everything they're working on. They really care about making a difference in the world. And I don't get that feeling when I'm working. Like, I just kind of feel like I'm working just to make money. And I'm not proud of it. I'm not bragging about what I'm doing. I'm not learning a ton. I kind of have reached my ceiling at where I was. And so I was like, I want to work at Lyft. Like, all the drivers seem to love how they're treated by headquarters. And so I applied for a job there, and I became a community manager. Lyft was only about 60 employees at that time. And then when I left Lyft in January, Lyft was about 3,000 employees. So as anyone working at a growing startup knows, your role changes on almost a daily basis. So I've had probably about 8 different job titles there. But most recently, upon leaving, I was the head of internal events. So we slowly created our own internal communications team there. Once we became a couple hundred employees, we noticed it was really important to make sure that we were sharing the ongoings and the news internally with our employees, specifically as a job function, because a lot of times our employees would find out things through TechCrunch or through different articles, or it's never fun if your grandma calls you and said, "Hey, I heard you're launching in Canada," and you're like, "What? I didn't know that." It's kind of embarrassing. So it's like, you want to make sure that your employees are in the know, essentially before anyone else. Granted, you have to work carefully when you're talking about competitive information, so you don't want to tell them too early. So it was definitely a lot of learning on the job, and we eventually morphed our internal communications team into something we called employee experience. And this is something that is kind of a hot buzzword topic in the US right now, in Silicon Valley. Because when you're thinking about, Silicon Valley, and you think about Facebook, Apple, Uber, Lyft, all these big companies, Google, Twitter, they're all there. They all have headquarters there. And it's a battle. It's a battle for not only customers, but it's a battle for employees. You want the best employees working at your company, right? You're trying to be the unicorn of Silicon Valley. And so this means you really need to focus on your employees. You can't just say, "Oh, we're paying you a lot of money, so that means you should be happy and you should be coming to work and you should be grateful." No, you really need, especially our generation, we want more. We want to feel like we belong at our workplace, and we're not, our job isn't just something that we show up, we collect a paycheck, and we go home and then we complain about it and dread going the next day. That's not a life that any of us want. And so it became really clear to us that it was something we wanted to invest in, so we created this employee experience team, and internal communications is just one small part of that. And then employee events, which was what I was heading up, is another thing. So thinking about our orientation, that when people walk in on their first day at the job, they feel like they made the right decision. They're excited to be there. They know everyone here has had a first day at a job where before you go in, you're like, am I going to the right place? Are they going to know who I am when I show up? Do I need to introduce myself? Who am I supposed to ask for? Where am I supposed to go? I have no idea. I'm pretty nervous about it, right? It can be kind of scary. So making sure that everyone feels like welcomed and everyone feels right off the bat they're excited to work there, and that we keep that excitement high through their entire employment at the job and beyond. You know, your employees are your advocates for your company. It's marketing for your company, internal branding, right? And so we're thinking about, you know, our employee experience in a lot of unique ways, talking about how you can give back to your community, remembering who your customers are, because a lot of times we're in an office, we're sitting on our computer, right? And we're not like always interfacing with the people that we're serving. So at Lyft, that means our drivers and our passengers. And a lot of people wouldn't even know, you know, how a driver would get paid. They wouldn't know what their phone screen looked like when they got a ride request. And so we wanted to make sure people are always feeling connected to our mission and our values. So we would also provide them with opportunities to become a driver or to work at a driver hub where they could interface with drivers having personal issues about payment or their car or stuff like that. And then making sure people had opportunities to give back to the community via volunteering. So we had a variety of ways to really enrich our employee experience, and I could go into that forever. But that's kind of where my journey at Lyft brought me, and now we're kind of traveling around, telling more about our journey and our learnings and finding out more in tech hubs across the world, essentially. But before we get into kind of our journey now, why don't you share more about how we got to San Francisco in the first place, and then what it was like for you?
So yeah, I mean, while Danielle was thinking a lot about employee experience, I was paying my employees minimum wage and making them work 7 days a week. I'm just kidding. They got a little bit more than minimum wage. So yeah, I mean, we've been on quite the startup journey together. Actually, Danielle originally introduced me to my first co-founder, a social impact media company that we started in Minneapolis, bootstrapped it for about 3 years, and then we sold it to a larger media company on the East Coast, and we really started that with a passion, right? I think everything should come from a place of passion and desire to have some sort of impact or change something. Ours was like, you know, if you've seen our president in the US lately, you probably realize that we have a major problem with the media. And when it comes to the media, we were like, hey, like we need to like create some sort of solution journalism aspect where we're like, instead of just talking about problems, we're actually solving problems through the articles that we write. We have social entrepreneurs writing articles. And so that was like my kind of first, you know, minus many other ideas and projects. That was the kind of first one I worked a little bit more fully on. And then after that, we like, I hear that Snapchat filter. Or maybe I was the only one.
Oh, there it is.
So, big proponent of Snapchat.
I think that was Instagram. Super Zoom.
Oh, okay, all right, my bad. And so like worked on that over a few years, and then the same co-founder who Daniel had introduced me to, we started working on another company called Storefront. And Storefront is kind of the avenue how I'm even here today, because we ended up raising about $10 million for it, sold it to a French company a few years ago. And then I started working with one of our investors, 500 Startups, and who indirectly invested. We didn't go through the accelerator program, but I've worked with the accelerator program, so I know it really well. And we actually went through AngelPad, another accelerator, more of a boutique incubator that is now in New York, and has put out some companies like Postmates, MoPub, Buffer, and so that was about 6 years ago. And we kind of, like Danielle was kind of alluding to, that we ended up moving on like 3 days notice. Like we were living in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, you know, in the Midwest, and basically moved halfway across the country to be there on Monday morning over like a weekend. And it quickly turned into 4 male founders living in a 1-bedroom apartment with no furniture for the next 2 months. So that's the cheapest.
Sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, sleeping on the floor. That's the cheapest that I've ever been paying for rent in San Francisco, I think. So it's fond memories. And so then, over the next 3, 4, 5 years, we kind of grew this company after the end of Angel Pad and like this intense, super, super helpful experience of an incubator and being able to get integrated into a city and an industry that we had no connections really to before. I really value incubators and accelerators for that. It's a great way to be as an outsider, get into a place that you wouldn't normally be able to connect so quickly with. So us from being from Minnesota, we might as well have been from Belarus too, because we're going there and knew no one. Silicon Valley speaks a totally different language. The way things work and the way business works and sometimes really the really collaborativeness of it is really wonderful, and how quickly you can just cold email someone, ask for a cup of coffee, and then they'll spend 30 minutes with you just trying to help you out. It's pretty cool. It's something that I think all startup ecosystems, I encourage everyone to be together, work together with each other as much as possible, because it's a very collaborative environment in San Francisco, and that's what makes it so special. Is you can just get answers to your questions, you get introductions to people. It's just really a special place, and that's kind of the hidden magic of San Francisco, is just people are willing to talk to each other and help each other. So anyways, we got out of the accelerator program. We went fundraising for 3 months. I can go very deep into fundraising because I've probably talked to from that side of the table, 500 investors at this point. And even though we've been able to raise a little under 10 million, we still had probably 95% of them say no. And so it's something to remember, that you have to go through a lot to really refine your idea, refine your pitch. It takes a lot of practice and work to keep going, because it's just not a fit. Investors are hard to talk to. They have their own preferences, and not everyone's going to be into what you're doing. So that was kind of our seed round. A year later, then we raised our Series A around 7 million, and that was much. We had learned some things, and it was a little bit better of a process. And we had a lead investor, and we had we were able to get some celebrity investors, rapper Nas and Gary Vaynerchuk, and so it worked out a little bit more smoothly. One thing I've always learned with fundraising processes is you really have to stay true to a process. You have to know who you're reaching out to, practice your pitch 100 times, edited the deck 100 times, and then try to meet with everyone that you want to meet with. Even if it's 10 people, 20 people, depending on where you're at, what ecosystem you're in, still you want to compress it all together, because everyone talks usually. And if you can get people talking about you, and being oh yeah, did you hear about this? It sounds kind of interesting. Yeah, I did. Then sometimes that actually can be the flip, the switch that you can flip. I can't even speak English that well, and then that can be the dynamic. It's these weird factors that don't even have anything to do with if your business is a viable investment. It's has to do with FOMO and hype, and so. That's kind of super quickly glazing through that process, but that's kind of been a little bit of our early lives in San Francisco. And wow, we spent pretty much 24/7 in the office. I've never spent so much time in a box, I think, than the first few years in San Francisco. And then a few years later, we ended up selling Storefront, which is kind of an Airbnb for retail, to a French company that was working internationally. We kind of had the U.S. network, and then started working for 500, one of our investors. And that was a super rewarding process, because you work with an accelerator, you really get to spend dedicated time with some of the entrepreneurs that go through the process. It's hard because you're still a VC and you have to say no to a lot of people. But at the same time, the companies that do get in, in 500's case, about 30 to 50 2 times a year, you actually get to work with them and get to know them. And so it really creates some like valuable connection, which again is why I recommend incubators and accelerators, because I think it's just a really special way to like get a couple months, 2 to 4 months in a place, get to know it, get to know everyone, get a little bit of money, flesh out your idea, and like you kind of have like this like war bond with people that like you went through the accelerator with. So a lot of the people I went through Angel Pad with, I'm still super close with today and have been great mentors to me. So I don't know. So where does that bring us? I mean, it brings us kind of up till now, where we a little bit on the personal side. As you can tell, we're married. We just got married last year, but we've been dating a long time.
Maybe they can't tell because some people ask us if we're brother and sister because we're both very tall, and we're like.
You can tell everyone laughing was like thinking that exact same thing.
Yeah, like, same last name, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we're not brother and sister, but
that we know of.
Our brothers and our sisters are much taller than us, and so. We kind of like, had been through this process, and something a little bit more typical in San Francisco is to take a sabbatical year. And so we're kind of on some sort of a sabbatical honeymoon. We're calling it the Sabbatamoon, to basically kind of, think about new ideas, take us out of the bubble of San Francisco. And like, there's a lot of group thinking that happens in any city, and people, oftentimes think very similarly to other people. So we want to just take a second to breathe, and we're working on some new projects this year. We're stopping at ecosystem hubs like here in Minsk, and just trying to see if we can be helpful. And also, we're kind of looking for our future home. So we're very open-minded. We don't necessarily think we will go back to the Bay Area, but it's a possibility. And we had a really nice time on October Street the other night. So I think we're really liking Minsk. So.
Yeah, so I think we got to a point in San Francisco. We'd been there over 5 years. We were kind of like, you sit down in a cafe, and every single conversation around you is about, bro, I have this great idea. No one's ever thought of it before. Or like, someone's talking about fundraising. Someone's talking about one of their engineers at their company. Like, everyone's only talking about tech, which is amazing when you're trying to break into that world, right? Like, that's everything you could ever want, because everyone knows someone who could benefit you. And it's true. It is like the land of essentially endless opportunities. Like, there's fundraising, there's talent, there's all these things.
As long as you don't spend those endless opportunities on your rent.
Yes, true. And we are kind of looking at San Francisco as though this is not reflective of the rest of the world. Like, you guys would not say, oh, in Minsk there's endless money for startups. There's endless talent. If I need an engineer, I wouldn't even know. Like, I could bring in 50 people to interview. That's not the case in most of the world. So we really wanted to educate ourselves in tandem with kind of sharing, what we've learned on 2 very different startup journeys, from founder to someone who's seen like explosive growth within a company and navigated that hand in hand with our co-founders. And we want to talk to other people who, have the same dreams that we had prior to moving to San Francisco. Because honestly, like, a lot of it is luck, right? Like, Tristan submitted some like 3-minute video on YouTube, and 2,000 companies had applied to Angel Pad, and 12 got in. Like, we were not expecting that. And so it really was just luck for us. I mean, there are so many amazing ideas out there, and not everyone gets the opportunity to exercise them and is given all the resources to fully go after it. So I think it's important for us to kind of go to these startup hubs and learn more about different challenges and opportunities, and see how we can plug in and how we can help, and then eventually understand if we want to start another company, or where we want to end up living. So it's been a really interesting journey. It's been interesting to hear about the different challenges that people face. An example that I like to bring up is we spent a month in Albania working with startups, and we always like to ask, like, what are some of your biggest challenges here? And they were saying, in Albania, when you're a founder, your family expects you to hire your relatives to work at your company, even if they have no applicable skills. And it's like, imagine you need someone to like help lead your marketing department, and you have to hire your cousin Bob, even though like he's only worked at car washes his whole life, and like would have no idea how to even think about like advertising on Facebook or improving your SEO results or anything like that. And it's so funny, like these challenges are something like we've never had to think about before, and they can be so basic, or they can be the same challenges that we've experienced even, but from a more localized perspective. So I think we're learning just as much as we're helping. So it's been super valuable for us. So definitely excited to hear some more pitches. Tristan, how many pitches do you think you've seen in your life?
I don't know, somewhere around 5,000.
So
I don't know. It depends what you count. If you count the application videos,
sure, yeah,
for 500,
I think those count. It's still a pitch.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess when I was, and of course, obviously, it's applicable to everyone here. I mean, 500 startups is definitely open to investing in Belarusian companies. So,
and they have.
And yeah, and we have actually. Yeah, the reason we're here is Michael from Friendly Data actually introduced us to Imaguru, and that's how we ended up here. So it just shows how like little connections can go a long way. So that's a good thing to keep in note. And yeah, oh my gosh, when I was like working at the accelerator in San Francisco, there was probably could see like 10, 20 pitches a day. So if that gives you an idea, if you can learn anything from my pain, is how much you have to stand out in like an email to an investor or a deck that you put together, because if someone's seeing that many pitches, like they probably have seen a company like yours, they've probably seen like you just really have to like put a lot of time into it so that you can really look different, know that you're really thought through this more than the other 100 that they've seen. So it's always good to put yourself in the other person's perspective, right? In the other person's shoes. That's probably one of the best things you can do when talking to an investor, is be a good listener.
Are there any other like quick tips you have for someone who's pitching?
In the first 90 seconds, I should know what you do. Because if I don't know that, then you can't even really go on to the rest of the pitch. Or if you do, I may just sit there, or an investor may just sit there quietly and pretend that they understand everything that's going on, even though they may not understand anything. That happens a lot, right? Because that's why I say be a good listener. Because if you're not paying attention to how the investor is acting, their nonverbal communication, and not stopping to say, hey, look, are you like understanding this? Is this like, is this, something that you see with your portfolio companies, asking questions, like being an active listener, I think like that is pretty key. Writing notes. Honestly, like writing notes in a notebook when you're talking to someone, there's no better way to like make that person at least feel like you're listening to them. You don't even have to be listening to them. You're writing in your notebook. But seriously, we brought notebooks to like every one of our investor meetings when we were raising for Storefront. And like we were listening, and we would take like real notes, and like just be engaged, right? Like you're there to like you only have like 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes really in most investor meetings. You really got to keep that energy high. Also, maybe slideshows. You probably, I mean, in presentations, you probably only want like 10, 15 slides, especially if you're early stage. Like, you can have an appendix, but like, again, you should be able to get through that in like 15 minutes. So then you can actually spend time, like, you've given the person the high level of what's interesting about the business, what's exciting, and then you can go on and like take actually like deeper questions if they're interested. So time management overall, I think, is a big one.
Yeah, I think also like making sure you're identifying your problem. A lot of people just talk about their solution. They say, look what I'm giving you. And, you know, we've been pitched and we're like, that's awesome, but who's going to use this? Why would people even want to use this? Was there a problem, you know, with the way that they were doing it in the first place? So like being really clear about what you're actually solving for rather than just like, here's this solution. And then also sharing like, why are you the right person to do it, right? Because everyone says no one else is doing it, or no one else is doing it like I'm doing it. But who are you? Like, why is it important? What's like your story? Yeah, everyone says it, and so it's like you have to really personalize it, I think, to really capture someone's attention.
Yeah, if you can figure out, I mean, you should know your secret sauce or your superpower or whatever you want to call it. Like, you should know what that is, and it could be like, hey, we used to work at Google. It could be like, we have like, you know, 17 patents on this technology. It could be like, you know, we hired one of the best, you know, engineers in Minsk. Like, you know, whatever that superpower is, like, you have to kind of know what's makes your business different than everyone else's. So I think, should we open it up for some Q&A, and then we'll go into some pitches? Do we have a roving microphone? Or just speak loud, or okay, there we go.
Yeah. Hey guys, I have a question. Like, what side of the table would you prefer in future? Like your own startup, or like to be investors, or do something else?
I think I'm always a founder first. It's a lot more fun to work on creative solutions to things and growth hacky stuff, and it's just so much more interesting. You must be dying to ask some questions.
They're just really excited for pitches.
Maybe. I mean, like, maybe there's some topics, you know, like, obviously, like, you know, if you're talking to Danielle, she knows some very fast scale, 60 to 3,000 in like 4 years? Like, that's a pretty crazy speed. And so she's seen some really interesting things on like how to, you know, be a leader, how to run your business, how to, you know, create bonds between employees. Or we could talk about fundraising and Silicon Valley.
Question over here.
Or 500 startups.
Yeah, after sitting on the another side of the table, maybe you saw some mistakes you've made when you was a founder, or maybe some patterns, mistakes, which are made by lots of founders.
Oh, wow, yeah. I mean, I didn't have to sit on the other side of the table to know that. I think, yeah, with every story, there is lots of ups and downs. I used to start calling the startup roller coaster a startup Richter scale, because it's just so spiky up and down. You're just like, I feel amazing. Oh my God, it sucks. You know, and like, I think, I don't know, you know, there's definitely some rhetoric that's like very true, like, hire slow, fire fast, I think, and fire in the right way. So this is something I don't feel like I should be proud of, but also feel like it actually is something to be proud of, is like, I know how to fire people in the right way. And firing people in the right way is that if you can fire someone and they still want to work with you after. And really it's just
possible.
It's just very possible. And, you know, it really comes down to just like communication, right? Like there's a transformation that needs to occur, like, as you're building a startup, and, you know, as early as possible, of like you becoming like the founder to you becoming the leader and the manager. And I think it's really important to think about that and do self-development, because like, yeah, when it comes to like, okay, like I fire someone, like say like, oh, how would they still want to come back? And it's like, well, you probably were communicating with them, you know, every, you know, week over week, you had consistent catch-ups. You were talking about what you needed from them, or the right fit for the role, and things were just not working out. But you were very open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, they see like, yeah, you're right. There isn't really like a fit here anymore, or like this part of the business isn't really working like we thought it was, so we had to get rid of it. And so I think that sort of open and honest communication really comes as you grow as a leader, and communication is probably one of the most important things, especially between like you and a co-founder. Just to being like as honest and transparent as possible, while still being like motivating and exciting. And like that, I mean, then also like for us, like from like a seed stage, raising, you know, $1 million something to like, and like 7 people sitting around a table, to like going to like a Series A stage and like 20, 30 people in different rooms in the office. And like, that's really like, that's when that stuff, like, it doesn't seem like culture or like how you run, how you lead your team or how you manage your team is that important. But then when you move on to like the next stage, it matters a lot. And like, if you didn't create like a culture, if you didn't create like a bond between your team at that stage, it really can fall apart at the next stage. And especially if you have, you know, maybe people on the team that like other people don't get along with. So you also have to be very thoughtful about how you build your team, who you bring into it, into this inner circle, and then how do you want people to treat each other and care about each other. So I actually created like a storefront ethos that I'd go through every new hire, and I'd kind of subtly be talking about it in interviews too, because I'd be like, hey, like we're really passionate about what we do. We really care about empowering creatives, like making cities more bright and beautiful, but at the same time, like we work incredibly hard, and like this is not going to be like a 9 to 5. Like if we need to get something done the weekend, we're going to get it done, right? And so like I think that's just a part of communication, right? Of like setting expectations. So I think communication is where a lot of failure can happen, and it's a point that like everyone as a founder should be always working on improving. And you know, it works in all aspects of life. Like we were talking earlier today to some of the teen guru people, and like one of the things that came up was like how you know, your business. I feel like everything is like, a lot of times in the U.S. they're like, oh, your business life, you have your personal life. They're different. But I never really believed that, and I definitely still don't believe it. And it's like, you know, the same skills that you use with your team, like whether it's communication or whatever, you use at home with your family, with your friends. So it's like you can use both you know, parent lives to like improve the other life, because it's really just one integrated life that's your own. So I think that's one thing that hopefully that's a long-winded answer to that maybe answered the question.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Hello. There is a meaning in our ecosystem that if you want to get the funding from the United States VCs, you should move with your team to the United States. If you are here, located here in Belarus, your chances to get this funding is lower. Do you think it is true, or it's just a meaning of our ecosystem?
So, you know, if you want to do a fundraising, like kind of official fundraising process in the U.S., you'll probably need a U.S. entity, probably a Delaware C Corp. So that part is true, although like it really depends on the stage and if you're ready for it. And I think you should be doing a lot of like, you know, connecting with people, knowing like if this is actually something viable. Not just go on like a hope and a dream, because you know, if you have a unique idea, unique technology, it's actually like you've done some serious competitive research. You know it's a lot different. You know it's gonna, and you know it would work in the U.S. or you're already doing it in the U.S. and you have customers, you have some revenue, okay, then maybe like you could think about going to, you know, New York, San Francisco, LA, and like working on that further. And you know, I'm a fan of experimentation, so you never know sometimes till you try it. But yeah, I wouldn't move blindly. And also, like, you know, there's startup hubs everywhere, right? There's startup resources everywhere. So I think you should really like go deep on your own community before making a jump somewhere and not exactly knowing, you know, that market as well as you know your own market, because you don't even realize probably how well you know like Belarus and Minsk compared to like what I would think, right? And there's probably different types of technology or tweaks that you would make to products that would make it more applicable here. So you have to think those little intricacies are everywhere, and especially, you know, from city to city in the US. You know, there's New York, which is only like New York. There's San Francisco, which is only like San Francisco. LA then is like even a little different. Then there's like all these other cities, you know, then there's like Midwest versus East Coast versus West, you know, there's all these little intricacies that actually, like, you know, for you guys, like you have like, you know, from based on where you grew up, you have like a special insight into what you know, these countries or these places that you spent time are like. So that's something I think valuable. And so there's kind of like, it's a two-headed question. Are you ready to like fundraise, you know, internationally in Europe, in the US? And then are you, you know, is that the right place for whatever you're working on too?
Hello. As I see, Lyft startup exists more than 6 years at this moment. And as I see, it does not spread, does not do marketing nowhere except United States of America. And as I know, Belarusian market and the Commonwealth independent states market, it's the best place in the world to do things like sharing cars. So why the company, your company, don't do marketing in another countries?
That's a great question. So Lyft operates it covers 95% of the U.S. population, and has just expanded into Canada earlier this year. And so Lyft's outlook on international expansion is kind of unique. If you think about Uber, a lot of people call Uber a bulldozer. They come in to many countries where they aren't necessarily invited. The government isn't necessarily ready to accept innovation like this, for better or for worse. And a lot of times Uber ends up getting huge fines, they get a bad reputation, people don't want to use them, their drivers get their cars impounded or go to jail. In China, there was like a big raid on the Uber office, and the local general manager went to prison and was like interrogated. And Uber ended up, and we're talking about China, so of course China has Didi, which is a huge player in the game, and much bigger than Uber on a ride basis, just because of pure population in China. But Didi ended up buying out Uber, so that Uber couldn't even operate there, right? So when Lyft looks at international expansion, we look at, you know, trying to make sure that we know supply ops really well, inside and out, in our own market before thinking about taking that to an international scale. Also, at this point, most big cities in the world already have a ride-sharing app in them. And so just becoming another player in the game isn't necessarily the best move. So Lyft tried a sort of like partnership model a few years back. It's called a gold partnership. So it was Grab, Ola, Lyft, and Didi. So essentially, if you had the Lyft app downloaded on your phone and you went to China and you opened the Lyft app, you could call a car just like you were used to in the US, and a Didi car would actually come and pick you up. And so that was just one model of trying to, you know, think about expansion, because no one really wants like 8 or 12 ride-sharing apps downloaded on their phone. Like, we are all about simplicity, right? We want to open one app that we're familiar with. I think what's the
like 99% of people's attention on their phone goes to like 8 apps.
Yeah, 8 apps. And so it's like, we don't have the attention span for all these different, we can't think, like, if I'm a frequent traveler, I can't be like, right away, okay, I'm in this country, they use this ride sharing service, okay, so I need to make sure I'm opening that one. Like, it can be really difficult to know about. So right now, Lyft is really focusing on understanding their own market, and so the launch into Canada this year was kind of a foray into the first time, like, serving up the app in another language and different payment system. It's actually quite difficult to go from, only operating in your home country to, like, suddenly, like, oh, we have to do this sort of like conversion and thinking about, different laws and it can be actually really difficult because drivers are actually not employees, they're contractors. And so they're independent contractors, and so that means like there are a lot of like workplace regulations that we have to uphold and think about when we're talking about that. And so different countries have different laws around these drivers too, right? So there are lawsuits that happen between drivers and Lyft and drivers and Uber, and people are, what was intended to kind of be a part-time thing to make extra money, a lot of people have made their full-time job, but they don't get benefits. They don't get sick leave, and they don't get paid time off, and they don't get health insurance because it's their choice if they want to drive 1 hour a week or they want to drive 50 hours a week. And so there's kind of this like, this threshold of figuring out a lot of these things before we just kind of go all into new markets. So I think that in short, like, Lyft is not trying to be a bulldozer. They take a much different approach than Uber, and they want to be kind of welcomed and invited in and know that it's something that people really desire there.
Thank you. It's still a little bit obscure, but let's speak it afterward.
Of course.
Hi guys, welcome to Minsk. I have 2 questions. The first one is, what makes you different as investor? What is your secret recipe or secret sauce? And the second question, what actually you're doing here? I mean, looking for a new house or home, or making an investigation, looking for partner startups. What is everything a bit? What are you doing here?
I'm with Russia. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of all of the above for the second question, right? Like we're interested in different places. We're interested in the innovation system, and we're interested in like the creative communities there. And then like, I mean, for part 1, yeah, good question. What is my superpower? I don't know. I think I'm just like a pretty straightforward kind of real dude that like knows what it's like to be a founder, and so I have a lot of empathy for what someone's going through as a founder. So I just try to be more helpful and more real. Like if you had an investment meeting with me, I wouldn't just like not tell you what I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you what probably you need to hear to improve your pitch for other investors as well. So generally, I don't know. That's maybe my superpower is empathy.
I think we're also advocates for like good people. A lot of investors will just look at like bottom line or numbers and say like, are your numbers producing? Do you have what it takes? But like, I think especially you can like see beyond that and see like, does this person really have what it takes to be the sort of leader and to bring this into the next level.
Yeah, I like to think like, okay, like if this founder is successful and becomes president, would I be happy with that? I want to empower, people that like I really believe in, right? Like, and I think that have like a moral compass that like want to uplift others while they do it. And it's, you think it's like, it doesn't take that much to figure it out, as when you're chatting with someone about what their vision and understanding what their passion is for what they're building and things like that.
Thank you.
break. Should we go into, in the back there? There's probably a few more questions. Get them in, and then I think we're probably, we take a break, and then we're going to hear some pitches and give some live feedback, I think.
Hi guys. So Tristan, I wanted to ask you a bit more about how you got into Forbes 30 under 30. So could you elaborate on this?
I know a guy that knows a guy. I mean, I think just people really, so here's how I think about building a company is I think like you want to build a movement around what you're doing, right? Like you want to have something there's more meaning there than just like I'm renting a retail space from you, you know? Like I think it's like I thought about storefront as a avenue to not just, you know, help someone rent a space easier or like to help grow their business, or I felt that was a place to really like make like cities fill vacant spaces and make them more interesting and like create these amazing experiences in cities so they became more colorful and more beautiful, more interesting, to clear out all the gray space that you see, you know, in a city, all like the, you know, sidewalks and walls and fences that are just not interesting to look at all. It's not, you know, there's a lot of things you see in a city that like you didn't decide to put it in there. None of the citizens did. It just like happens to be there, and we should probably have more of a say on it. So I kind of thought of like storefront in that sense, and I think that's like what, you know, would come across when we were hiring people, when we were like talking to press, like, you know, so I think that's a good lesson for everyone to think about. And, you know, you could look at also other companies. I mean, Lyft is a company that does that, right? They wanted you to feel like you're driving with a friend. They didn't want it to feel like a taxi driver and you sit in the back seat. When they launched, it was all about you'd fist pound the person and you'd sit in the front seat and they'd like be playing music and super chatty with you. And that's why like the Lyft experience was so amazing from like day one. And, you know, and that was different. You know, they were the first to do ride sharing versus the black car with Uber. And that's because it fit that brand so well. And Airbnb does it too. You know, like how do you live like a local, right? Like it's like very aspirational. Like it's like, yeah, I want to live like a local. I want to like see a city from like a local's perspective. And like they really understood that and like really shared that message. So I think getting noticed, you know, by press comes back to like what your message is, and like, is it something that people can really get on board with? Anyone else before we go for a break, or is everyone really excited to get those crackers? Okay, let's take a break and then we'll come back and we should hear a few startups pitch.
Thanks, guys.
Ребята, у нас сейчас будет небольшой перерыв, 5-10 минут, потом пару стартапов пропичат. Кому интересно, можете остаться. А стартапы, которые будут пичить, подойдите, пожалуйста, ко мне. Так, этот работает? Друзья, давайте уже занимать места. Работает, да? Кто хочет подслушать, подходите поближе, присаживайтесь. Yes, yes.
Okay, should we keep microphones then? Sorry.
Все, ничего не делать? Оп, ничего не работает. Все, я поняла. Hello everybody, my name is Daria Danilova and I'm the CEO of Rockdate.io. We are the B2B SaaS platform that helps companies to manage their information and reviews across popular digital services. So my previous project was biggest Belarusian Yellow Pages website, and every day we got a lot of emails from our customers saying, oh, here you have the incorrect number of this company, or here I came to the restaurant, it was written on your website that it is open but it is closed. And really there are a lot of sources of decentralized sources of information about every company. And company itself controls only a small number of these sources, and the biggest part of the information is user generated. And customers are really very upset when they deal with this incorrect information. Also, on all these sites, there are a lot of reviews, and the companies have never seen these reviews and have no opportunity to answer them. So our solution is one interface for the companies to control and manage the information and reviews across popular online maps, navigating systems, social networks, and Yellow Pages websites. So the market is rather big. It is valuated about $10 billion US. There are some competitors on this market, but competition is mostly in the United States of America, and the biggest part of the countries in the world has no access to this technology. We started our product in April of this year. Nowadays we work on the CIS market, and our main clients are enterprise clients like retailers, banks. These are our clients from CIS market, current clients, and in the next years we plan also to start to deal with the SMBs and to enter the new markets. Our business model is on this slide, but next year we plan to double our average revenue per paying user and our LTV. So our traction is pretty good. We grow month after month, and in June we reached $16,000 US monthly revenue. We have a very experienced team. Different members of our team were founders of amazing products on the internal market, and we altogether has made profitable business on the internal market with revenue of more than $1 million US. So this is our strategic vision of our product. We are dreaming about exit, of course, and we have two opportunities of exit: the early exit at the CIS market and the later exit to one of our competitors or potential partners at the global market. So now we are looking for advice, opportunities for partnership or contacts with future potential investors. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the 10 billion addressable market, what is that market?
It is the market of online presence management tools. This market was evaluated by the leader of this branch, Yext Limited. They are a rather big company with more than $2 billion valuation, and they counted this market like $10 billion US.
And sorry, it was what? It was management tools?
Online presence management, the
really?
market of digital knowledge. They name it so.
All right, okay. All right, and then you showed your customer acquisition cost going up next year?
Yes.
And why is that?
We do, now we are very strict in what we do. We have very small costs of marketing, and we have no, and our sales are only direct sales, but in the future to grow we will need to do to invest more in marketing to cover the bigger part of the market, because now we take only the very easy clients for us, but the further we grow with the more we should pay to attract new customers. We think so.
And what's your main channel?
Now we do only outbound sales, direct outbound sales, because this is enterprise clients.
Okay, and how long is your sales cycle?
3 months on average.
Okay, and my last question, so you mentioned your competitors and that they're I'm interested. I've never seen that sort of competition slide where it's hey, they're here, they're here, they're here, they're here. How do you compare to your competitors, though?
How we compare them?
Are you better?
Why the United States market is more high competitive? Because all these companies present, they work there. To work in our sphere, you need to have the local integration. So you can't deal only with global partners, but for every country you have to make some partner with some local popular websites. And so United States market is covered very good. Some of competitors deal with some European markets, but for example in CIS you can't, they are not present because they have no integrations with Yandex, for example, or some popular Russian websites.
But I guess my question is more, how are you different? What's your differentiation from these other competitors? Are you different? Are you the same?
We are 10 times cheaper, but we are dealing on another markets. We're different by market.
Okay, so do you have, besides competing on cost though, there's no technological difference?
There is a technological difference, but this difference is not a competitive this is not a plus for our company for the United States market. This is we use another technology, and so we are able to work with not very high developed markets. And our competitors, they are not able to go to the CIS market now because they work with a kind of, content partners, and they are able to work only in that markets where their partners are presented. So they don't do the direct integrations, and so they are not able to enter markets where their partners doesn't work.
Okay. And then I don't know if I missed it, but what stage are you at right now? Are you you already have, I saw you already had, some clients, but you're already making monthly revenue?
We have clients, and we are closing seed stage round now.
Okay.
Awesome. So my feedback is a little bit more from the communication side of things. So you have a really great stage presence, and you're super succinct. Your slides, on some of them there's a lot going on, and you go through them a little quickly. And so if you go to the one that's 2018 through 2024, can you flip to that slide? Right there. So with the slide like this, I would love to see what are some of the top things you're trying to convey? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's like 10 numbers on this slide.
Too much.
It's a lot, and it's probably really, really good stuff because you're talking about your strategy and your planning, and so it's like what's like the one thing that I should know when I look at this slide, right? So I think you're speaking to that really well, just making sure that your slides are also kind of speaking to those points as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the main idea is that we have 2 opportunities to exit, and we think we dream to make the exit from this company.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think I definitely echo that. I like one main thing like one takeaway per slide, especially when you're going through it very quickly in like a 2-3 minute pitch, because otherwise, you see a lot of things. If I see 3 numbers on a slide, I may remember 0 numbers. If I see 1 number, I may remember it. The only other thought here on this slide then is generally, right, I guess it just depends on what investor you're talking to, right? Because if you're talking to, let's say, like Silicon Valley investors, and you're like, okay, we'll maybe exit to this, it may sound like you're not going to try to grow this to be a big enough business. This is just my Silicon Valley venture capitalist hat. But, sometimes those things go without saying, or you want to say, like, look, like, you want to kind of hint at it without being like, oh, it's going to be an exit. Like, you want to be like, we could be a huge business on our own. We don't necessarily need an exit to make this a big business, right? So I don't know, just something to think about as far as like what investor you are talking to.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Sasha from One Soil. I'll try to be short as hell. So, okay, we're making AI-based smart platform for precision farming. So the market of digital farming is going to be $4.2 billion in 2020. So, how to change the slide? No one button works. Okay. No. Yeah. Okay. So right now we have 3 problems. As the industry is at early stage of digitalization, first, exciting agri-tech products solve local problems on local markets. The second, they are very expensive. And third, there are large amounts of agricultural data and they are still unstructured. So the farmers don't know how to use this. What we do? We gather data from different sources like mostly satellite imagery, tractors, labs, actual weather sensors. We process all this data inside our platform, and we're giving insights to farmers and different types of businesses like dealers, advertisers, sellers of fertilizers, etc. Our core technology is field detection and crops detection. What we have, we detected all fields and crops in all Europe and US. So we classified 57 million fields in Europe and US, and we classified 90 crops in all Europe and US. So we can detect early season. So in June, you can understand what is the crop on your field, and we can classify the crop for the last year with 92% of accuracy. So this is a real map of crops in Europe. Different colors is different crops. Here's the 5 crops on this map. Our business is for farms and another businesses. So for farms, we offer very easy onboarding. So we want to create an immersive experience for farmers because our competitors have very boring businesses, and it's very hard to input all data to systems. And we already know what is growing on the field, and we know the crop, and farmer just start and use our system. And we're giving smart insights about his fields, and it's surely free to use. And for businesses, we were ready to generate high-level reports about different kind of problems on the fields. We want to give these reports to different businesses like insurance, banks, consulting companies, etc. Here's our traction. We raised seed round in November 2017. In June, application was released. Now we have 10,000 users in our application from all Europe. The next week we open US, North America, and we plan to grow our user base to 1 million farmers in 2 years. Here's our investors, fairly known in Belarus. It's Hexus that already invest in a Metro, Masquerade, Maps.me, Bilba Ventures, and Leonid Lozner, one of co-founder of EPAM Systems. Right now we are raising money, Series A, and we'll appreciate any connection with right guys from Bay Area. Thank you.
So, what's your role at the company?
What's
your role?
I'm a co-founder here. We have 3 co-founders. I'm head of product here.
Okay, and what's your tie to this company? Like, what makes you kind of the right person to be pitching this?
What's my trigger to work here, or
like what makes you the person who and the team who can really make this company thrive?
I'm not sure that I'm fully understand your question, but
I think what she's getting at is just, why do you care? Do you have industry experience? Like, why are you working on this problem?
Okay, it's a good question. I have a large experience, about 10 years in products. So I was designer for 8 years, then I started to do some things in managing products. And it's very interesting for me because this thing can make old-fashioned business like agriculture better. So it's a thing on the edge. So we just using cutting-edge technologies, and we're changing the market. As I said, market is empty. Very little amount of companies do something in technologies here. So tens of companies in the world. And in our team, we have 17 right now. We have different guys with different background. So we have advisors with PhD and professor degrees. We have one of our co-founder is almost PhD in soil sciences. So we have a very strong engineers. We caring about UX a lot because we're thinking about a farmer. Most of farmers should use our product with a simple way. So we care about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. No.
Oh, okay. So did you have a team slide?
In this presentation, no.
Not this one, okay.
Yeah, this presentation is not very good for stand-up. It finished yesterday, so I know all this.
I could tell,
yeah,
because you spent most of the time looking right at it instead of looking out at the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the team part is, I'm glad Danielle brought that up, because the team part is pretty, like, at early stage like this, like, it wasn't clear, like, if you guys had a farming background. So I think that would definitely be pretty essential to have in every presentation, especially if you have someone who's got a PhD in, like, soil information. So And I already kind of said my other one was like, yeah, like definitely as far as stage presence, looking forward even a little bit. You know, a lot of times at 500 we'll be like, never look back, never look at the screen. But a lot of times also they have like a safety, you know, confidence monitor in the front so they can see this what slide they're on. But yeah, I mean, good design. Did you design this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, nice. I like it.
It looks nice. Did you talk about your revenue model at all? I saw for farms you said free to use. How do you make money?
Right now, we have two directions we want to move. First of all, we build in community around our free platform. So we offering everything we have for small and middle farmers for free. We want to build community till 1 million and more. And we want to establish affiliate model around this community and to offer to this community some goods from corporations like fertilizers, seeds, machinery, etc. Because we know a lot about the farmers' field, and we know what they need, what they really need. And the second, we want to sell our reports to governments, to banks, to insurance companies, because we know, again, we know a lot. We know all about the fields, and we can generate and offer reports better than reports from governments, for example. More accurate, more accurate. We know all about each field. So generally, some companies offer reports on the level of state or country, and we can offer this. We can offer reports of the level of the field.
But how are you selling this to farmers? Because obviously it sounds great for me if I want like farming data from a farm, but like I know it's free for them to use, but it's also not easy to get farmers to adopt new technology. So what is like your current sales cycle of the farm?
We mostly use digital marketing, so we have very low customer acquisition cost. It's less than $5 right now. We're using our mobile application for user acquisition. So we buy ads on Facebook, Google, and we target to users we need. So our target audience is young farmers, not very old, young farmers from 25 till 35. It's a lot because some old farmers give their business to their sons, etc.
Interesting. Yeah. Your number one is digital acquisition channels.
Yes.
You don't do any like inside sales?
No.
Nothing?
Yes, it's cheap. It's
really?
cheap, and we use
How many farmers do you have on board again?
Sorry?
How many farming customers have you onboarded?
Right now, 10,000.
Wow.
10,000. We just started our marketing. We 1.5 months ago. It's the results from June. 10,000 of users.
Wow. Okay. And then what does it take to get to like the next level with their farm to get data from their farm? Like,
our plan to get data from his. We want that farmer gives us his data. So we working on the pipelines that can take data about yield, for example, from harvesters, about data from sensors. And we want to use all this data to improve our data science models and to give better insights for everyone. We want to be a platform for every farmer on Earth, a free platform.
And they're already getting enough data, digital data, that you can use and plug into? Or do you need to like give them more tools to collect the data?
Both, I think. Some modern machinery can generate files. We can take these files and we can see the actual yield in each point of the field, for example. We can process data like this, and from another side we can just give some forms to farmers and to gather data manually. So farmer inputs something to our system and we see this.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
В одно время или по-разному?
Мы не можем иметь два микрофона? Можно презентацию? Сначала видео? Нет, только в Q&A.
Are you ready, guys?
All right, so good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Manuela, and this is Dennis. We are both the founders of Socium Trade, which is a comprehensive social trading and investment platform. So at Socium Trade, we believe that everyone who has capital, small or big, should be able to invest their money in order to gain passive income. Now, what are the key challenges of
Sorry, it doesn't
doing
work.
so? Okay. Well, it looks like we're not the first ones.
Sometimes it happens. Sorry.
All right, so what are the key challenges? So people might not have the knowledge, they might, because it's really not easy to do so, they might not have the time, they might not have the interest, or they have limited amount of capital, as well as there's a huge issue of trust in the industry itself. So here where we come in and we build the direct bridge between the traders and the investors. We are based on the premise that everyone should be able to make informed decisions and have full control over who manages their money and how. Who manages their money and how, right? And at Socium Trade, we have 3 core projects, which is the trading platform, the brokerage, and the social networks. What we do is we enable investors to filter through the asset classes and choose a trader based on his past performance data. And that's really, really critical here, because we show you the profits, the risk levels, the strategies, the amount of money he invested, or the amount of money other people invested into him. Or her. So what we do is, like, as you need a doctor or you need a lawyer, you need somebody who can manage your money or your portfolios in this case. So we have active management, you can create consortiums and pools. You can also define the terms with the investor or with the trader.
So all of those are feasible because of the EOS blockchain capabilities to run the chain code, which is formed as a smart contract between the parties in the financial deals, making squeezes completely impossible in the future, giving the possibility to track your funds, how it goes, and everything else. So here's the ecosystem of the Socium Trade itself. So in order to bring the excellence into user experience, we decided to create our own trading platform, which is capable to support 35K transactions per second, having the advanced liquidity aggregation strategy, and thanks to the hybrid storage for the crypto assets, we can make fund stalling thing of the past. So as for the social brokerage, we have state-of-the-art matchmaking tool and analytic tool to provide our users with a trustful information for where to invest and how to invest. User can rely on user performance, social activities, self-assessment, and self-promotion strategies from the traders or trading firms or consortium. So we have demos, so they are available. So, I mean, to make this long story short, I mean, we are capable to give investors and traders or even to all market participants the capability to do their own stuff, to form their own relationship the way they want to. I mean, we are not giving boundaries to them at all. And the magic is that we are doing this in the completely decentralized way. So there is no trust issue at all. So here is our revenue model. It mostly consists of 2 parts. The biggest part is the transactional model. So we are expecting about 50 million euro transaction volume per day. So we are charging our customers based on the transaction volumes they are doing, and the smallest part is the service and priority services for the customers, like creating the special landing pages for the family funds and for the biggest investment funds at all. So, so here we've managed to already secure at 1.3 million euros. Which is
and here we can add that 300 there was from our own investments, like close family and friend cycle, and then we had 2 fundings with 500,000. And we actually did a business plan, like a professional, solid business plan to evaluate how much money we actually need to build it, which came up to around, for Socium traders, I think it's around like 12 to 13 million, and then we have other projects in the ecosystem, so.
Yes. So thank you very much, and we want to get back to our team as well, because we heard that you're asking about the team, so this is the next slide.
Well, if you have the question, we have this prepared. But I think we can just...
So Manuela, maybe you can start from, or should I?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, I mean, if you want to hear a short intro. So we are a team of almost 40 people. There were like 5 of us in February, and now we are 40. So it's quite an exponential growth here. Mostly developers, project managers, everyone on the technical side. Just recently, we started focusing more on the marketing. So we're a very tech-focused company. Yeah, and I mean, we have a list of the key people in here.
So yeah, we have quite solid people on board, meaning that, I mean, for instance, we have the ex-prime minister of Poland, just to advise us.
Yeah, Valdas was managing IBM for 20 years, so he's got also plenty of experience within that. So I think we're very lucky with our team.
So basically, we are not only the guys who can do the software. We also try to imply all like knowledges from the past from people who can do the business properly. So that's exactly what we're trying to do.
I think we'll wait for the questions there.
Yes.
Wow, you said you have 40?
Yes.
40 people on your team?
Yes, that's correct.
And that seems like a lot.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we really grew so fast that we didn't realize how hard the operations are to be managed. But I think it took us a month or 2, and now we're really in a good space already to feel comfortable and focus on the work more.
Because once we decided to create our own like trading platform, we tried to get the insights from the companies, right? I mean, we were trying to hire people from those companies. We're trying to get secrets how to do things properly, because from the first look it seems to be very simple, but it's not.
I mean, our key issue, it's a very fast-moving industry. You don't really have time to wait. So
yes, exactly.
We prepared, I think we started last May with the ideas. In September, we started the work. So we already had pretty good research done. And then it really came into implementation, and we got more funding, and we just really boosted it on the people and grow the team and kind of get the idea, get the products out there, because until we don't have the products, we can't really monetize it.
So basically, we want to keep momentum here, because I mean, last 10 years the forex industry was booming a lot, right? And now there is a time for the crypto assets, because we do trust in the crypto economy and tokenization of all like classical assets at all. So I mean,
that's an important part. So it all started with traditional asset classes. So the platform was supposed to be for stocks, bonds, commodities, forex, and then we came into the crypto market. And we started crypto. We built a crypto exchange, which we're going to launch in September. So it just kind of moved together with the industry, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and when do you expect the product to be functional and in customers' hands?
Our first shipment to the public will be this October. So, but basically, in terms of the business to business relationship, we already have committed potential deals with our customers as well in terms of the liquidity and the trading engine itself.
Okay, and like what is like the competitor? Who do you think your competitors are?
Oh, there are many of them. So
there are quite a few, but none of them is really competitors. So I think we don't have a slide there.
No,
okay.
we don't.
Oh, okay.
But we have a quite comprehensive list of competitors with like deep analysis, where and now we understand where we are, and we do understand the ground.
Yeah, but maybe you mentioned some of the competitors.
Yeah, definitely. It's like eToro, FX Pro, Alpari, and others. Like.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the key, right? So some of them focus on social trading, like as in copy trading itself, and that's not really what we do at all. We're really enabling this peer-to-peer. Find a person you can trust. The person has the past performance data. It has the personal info that he gives to us, and we verify. Then this is past performance data, and there is the social network that gives reviews and kind of confirms that he's a good guy or she's a good girl, and kind of, there are a few moving parts. So that's not really something that exists in the market yet.
Exactly. So our main idea is just to completely eliminate the trust issue, completely. Eliminate the kitchen, eliminate the risk and stress from the investing money to someone who you do not trust. So here we have the capability to avoid any trust issues at all. And we do that in a decentralized way, which makes the system more reliable, because usually machines are not making mistakes. And you are not capable to change the conditions you started the deal. It's impossible unless both parties are agreed on that. So here's the small presentation how it works.
Yeah, we just put the video on.
Yeah.
You guys have really beautiful graphics in the presentation. They look really clean, really pleasing. My rule of thumb with any presentation that when you're standing on a stage talking to people or sitting in a room, never have a paragraph on a slide. Because no matter what it says, if someone is reading a paragraph, they're not listening to you. And if they're not listening to you, they're not as engaged as they should be. So even something as simple as the number 3 million euro, just have that. You don't need a paragraph that says, we plan to make 3 million euro per day, blah, 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 blah. Just 3 million, and then you speak to it, right? It's so much more simple, and then people are actually listening to what you're saying. They can glance at the slide, but really you want them looking at you and really paying attention to the points that you're making. But otherwise, you have the design element really, really down.
So it's too much, right?
There was on one of the slides, there were 2 full paragraphs, and I was like, I'm not going to read that. Just tell me what I need to know, and make you have such good design and icons that should be enough to really draw you in. And then, like Tristan was saying, show me one number. Really hit what do you really want me to know, and what do you want me to go home knowing?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So should we pass our microphone? Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you, everyone.
На сегодня все. Всем спасибо. Сейчас нетворкинг. Если еще